Welcome, welcome, welcome to Civility 360, folks. I'm your man, Dr. Vernet A. Joseph. This is your platform for all things civility, where civility, influence, and action are our deliverables. I'm your host again, Professor Vernet A. Joseph, and I'm joined by my good friend and host, global world civility leader, Sir Clyde Rivers. How are you doing today, my friend?
Man, Dr. V, I'm great, man. I'm great, man. I had a good time with you this weekend in Phoenix, man. Thank you. It was fantastic.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are always excited and delighted when we're able to get together in person. Well, listen, today, folks, we have a dynamic show for you. We are going to be talking about children's safety and civility. Children's safety and civility. We're going to have a great guest by the name of Dr. My good friend, Greg Dillon, making big things happen all around the world. And he's going to be talking, listen to me very clearly, about children, safety, and civility. So get your pens, get your pads ready. But before we do that, Sir Clyde Rivers, if you would please introduce to the audience our friend Greg Dillon.
Ladies and gentlemen, put on your seatbelts. G Money, you know it ain't funny, is with us right now. It's, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing Greg Dillon. This man is a karate expert and has been for years. But when you hear this man speak, he's so multi-talented, and I'm working with him on a philosophy that we're creating in the world. He is the 64-year-old motivational expert. Keep it moving. Motivation is Mr. Greg Dillon, and Greg also has established. He does so much. Have a blast with Granddad. This is an initiative and a movement that he's been involved in, and now we're bringing it onto our stage of civility. And he is when you hear him, people, you will be so amazed at everything this man's done. Grounded, discipline, and Dr. V, man, he can walk a pole almost horizontal. Great, Dr. V, at age 64. That's why he is the world's greatest 64 motor, M-O-T-O-R, motivational, not motor, not motor, motivational expert. Greg, good to have you on our show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, Dr. B, I'm going to start with the question, and this.
Yes, let's do it.
Greg, tell us, how did you get started in karate? What and what is your vision been since you have been started in karate?
Well, I grew up on my granddad's farm. Like I said, I'm 64 years old. That means I was born in 1956. And when you grow up on a farm, you learn to do things in the barn and in the cornfield. And my all my uncles and my dad were military veterans, and I know Dr. V's a military veteran. So when you see the U.S. Army duffel bag full of burlap feed sacks hanging in the barn, you tend to want to punch on it. And then seeing what I saw all those years, and then I found out there was a man in the next town who was a Japanese, and he was going to the university. So at 15 years old, before you even get a driver's license, you're riding a motorcycle to the next town and studying karate with. And that's how I got started. And I guess I was just too hard-headed to quit. So it's been 49 years now.
Wow.
V, did you hear that, Professor V?
49 years.
Professor V, talk to me.
49 years of doing karate. And it started off by going down to the next town and watch this, networking, if you would, being mentored, if you would, and understanding tactics and techniques for safety, if you would. And exactly. 49 years later, you are taking that very same training and teaching youngsters about children's safety. Don't tell me that you can't plan the work and then work the plan, folks. This is what we want you to understand. Now, Greg, I know without a shadow of a doubt that you have decades of lessons that you could teach. But talk to the audience today and give them some of the fundamentals, if you would, about children's safety through karate?
Well, a lot of times, the martial arts is misinterpreted. We want to teach kids how to stay out of that situation. A 10-year-old kid is not going to defend themselves against Dr. Rivers. He's 6'8". So you have to teach them to be aware of their surroundings, be aware of the situation. And we teach general safety with my granddaughter, Belle. She's my right-hand person here, and she's all outgoing. And we talk about how to be safe. Like we did. I put one out on fire safety. I'm an industrial firefighter where I work, so we did a program where I have my fire suit on, and I taught the kids how to identify the firefighter. Don't be afraid of the firefighter because he's your friend. In fact, he's a safe friend that you don't know. There's people that you don't know that you can contact. But I showed them how to wear the mask. Firefighters come in to save your life, so don't run. A lot of kids want to run from a firefighter because they're afraid. But if you run from the firefighter, then it's going to take him more time or her more time to get you out. So don't run, don't hide from them. The faster they get you out, the faster they can come in and save someone else. So that's our philosophy there. And we do playground safety, we do car safety, we do home safety, how to identify a stranger. And my granddaughter, she just lights up the room. She's a ham. And when she outgrows me, I've got a great granddaughter that's 7. So it never ends.
Absolutely. This is a phenomenal concept. And I want to commend you on that, Greg, because taking your skill and your acumen in these different areas and saying, I'm not just going to focus on martial arts. I'm going to focus on the entire spectrum. I want to focus on safety for children in every aspect of life. Now, many people may be saying Civility 360. Yes, that's a 360-degree angle of civility. And today we are focusing in on children safety. So now let me backtrack real quick, Greg. We talked about being aware of our surroundings. I think the adults on the line need to understand how important it is to be aware of your surrounding. In the military, they always tell us that you have to, have your left and right perimeter flanked out as you're walking down the street. That is being aware of your surroundings. And then also being aware of situations that you walk into. And then as you talked about those things, Greg, what I really, really love is how you're able to train your granddaughter to help bring this to light. So we have generations of knowledge here that is being transferred so that the next generation coming behind us and even the one after them will have these practices, these philosophies, these principles that they can actually live by. So as you talk about that, Greg, I really want to dive in. I don't want the people to miss it. So we talked about industrial fire safety. I want to dive back into that in a moment. We talked about playground safety, car safety, and just being aware altogether, identity safety. There are things that even in our world today, amid the COVID virus and the racial tensions everywhere, we need to be able to identify a safe person, a safe friend. I like how you mentioned that with the firefighter. Well, the way that the children or even adults begin to have a safe place in their heart with the firefighter is there's that educational awareness. Who is a firefighter? What are they there for? And how can they help? Would you agree?
I would agree totally. Yes. That's what we try to teach. And it's all generational. Once they learn that, then we can go into something else. I think it all comes down to civility. Everything we do comes down to civility. Teaching children is, I was raised between a cornfield and a coal mine. I grew up on a farm, and we know that you have to be good to the land. You have to teach your kids. You have to plant a good seed, and you have to put good fertilizer, and you have to pray for rain, and you have to keep the weeds out. That's civility. That's everything we teach with the kids. You don't plant a good seed, you're not going to get a good crop. And we know there's 7.8 billion people in the world that need to be fed. So we've got corn and beans, and my nephew runs the family farm now. So we've got all that running right now, and that's just that's life. If you don't plant a good seed, you're not going to get a good crop.
Man,
So you teach the kids early. Teach the kids early who they can trust, who they can't trust. And it's just, it doesn't go. It goes beyond the martial arts. I'm 5'6". I don't know if you knew it. Dr. Reuben West and I are in the same organization. We have the same instructor.
Okay.
So we learned the same precise, exact techniques from a little village in Okinawa. And as you know, Dr. West is 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. Well, I'm 5'6" and weigh 150. So those same exact, precise techniques, we have to modify them to our body size, our mentality, our mindset. And that's what we want to teach the kids. And everybody's different in different cultures, whether you grow up in town, on an urban area, or whether you grow up on the farm. It all comes back to civility, being nice to everyone around you. Like I said, being nice to the soil, being nice to the ground.
Greg, I have a question for you, Greg. How did being in the military, how did that affect you in this work? What did the military do for you that is used in the work you're doing now?
Well, I wasn't in the military. My father was a Korean War veteran. All my uncles were in the military, and my grandson is deployed right now. He's in the Middle East. And so, like I said, I learned this from military people. My father, my uncles were all in the military. Like I said, you'd see that U.S. Army duffel bag hanging from the rafters in the barn, and I think I need a punch on this thing. What else is it there for?
Right.
Go ahead, Dr. B.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing that I really appreciate, Greg. Many people, when you talk military mind and your mindset, there's so much, family members, although they didn't actually serve, they did serve. They served with us. They served through us. And the principles that you learn as you understand deployments and as you understand different missions and things like that. But these are principles. And I love the way that you put it. You plant a good seed in the ground. There were seeds that you saw from military service that you are implementing in your life today. There are seeds that you saw from 1 pound over that you are now able to implement 4+ decades in your life. And you're transferring that very same seed to your grandchildren and teaching your great grands. This is what I like to call legacy. When you take principles, philosophies, and practices, and you pass them down so that even after your lifetime, you still see the actual effects of it in the next generation. This is phenomenal to me. When I hear you say, Greg, oh yes, my nephew is running the family farm. Most people in business do not understand true lineage and true legacy. So training the child in the way that they should go so that when they grow older, they don't depart doesn't simply mean disciplines. It means lifestyle, right? It means awareness. It means mentality. It means structure, order. It means showing them how to, watch this, till the ground that they're in. It helps them to actually utilize those principles and, watch this, build a life that is worth leaving a legacy. Talk to us a little bit more, Greg, if you would, about leaving a legacy.
Well, I believe this is my martial arts legacy. It's part of self-defense was an art from Okinawa, Japan. It wasn't meant to win trophies and tournaments and all that. It was meant to defend yourself. It goes back to the samurai era. So, if you can teach kids and keep it going on for generations and generations, I believe that is my martial arts legacy. When you attain the rank that I've attained, then what is your legacy? Well, I believe this is mine. It's not so much winning titles and trophies, and I did all that, but now it's keeping the next generation going.
Perfect. Let me ask the question this way, Greg. What caused you to infuse civility into this way of living and life that you have today?
Well, I came from a different era, a different generation. When you you were respectful to people. You said, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You held the door open. Like I said, my formative years were in the early 60s. So that's when we learned to be civil. We learned to be nice to people. Absolutely. And you carry that on. I've always learned that from a young age.
Understood.
I take my dad to his Army reunions. My dad was 25th Military Police in Korea, and I take him to his military reunions, and everybody's thanking me for bringing Dad. I says, well, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely.
He can't get around anymore. So if he's going to get, and when you were in the military, those are your brothers for life. That's how my grandson is. Yes. Those are his brothers for life.
Yes. And the beautiful thing is, as you take them to these ceremonies, you would hear the wonderful words of Kamsamidad, Chun Maneo, and they would give you the big smile and love the fact that they can see the lineage actually continuing. This is something that I feel that the world really needs to know, and they need to understand. Listen, whatever God has gifted you with, the question is, what do you do with the gift? Do you dig it and bury it, or do you multiply it and expand it? And we can hear, as we're talking to our good friend today, Greg Dillon has taken it and expanded it. Exponential growth. It will be here long after Greg says goodbye to this world. So what we're sharing with you today is, what are some of the children safety, civility, philosophies and principles that you can pick up? Before this show is over with, we want you to be able to have some golden nuggets. So what are you training your kids right now in this Coronaville that we happen to be in? Do not waste time. Invest your time. Maximize your time.
Yeah.
Train your children. Show your grandchildren what civility looks like. Remember, we said Civility 360. So that's from a 360-degree angle. We're going to show you civility. And today we're talking about children, safety, civility. Share with us, Greg, if you would, maybe 3 points or principles or practices that you infuse into your granddaughter and maybe others who you're working with.
Well, the first thing you learn is there's safety in numbers. You don't want to go out by yourself. It doesn't matter if you know the area. There's always safety in numbers. We can't let our kids. When I was a kid, I could ride my bicycle to either grandparent's house. 5 miles, 10 miles, it didn't matter. You can't do that anymore. You have to go with someone. Like I said, you have to learn who the safe person is, whether that be an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, and it all works from there. There's no set mindset to self-defense. You just have to be aware of your surroundings and have that mindset that I'm going to survive whatever happens. And we learn that by staying away from the situation, not confrontational with our hands and our feet, just getting out of the situation. I would rather tell somebody, no, you got the wrong person. I don't want to mess with you, because if you wind up in a fight, nobody wins a fight.
Right. Understood.
Nobody wins a fight. So
wow.
I like that. That is very good.
So
safety in numbers. Go ahead, sir.
So Greg, it's really about safety. It's not about winning fights, because many people would think, as a karate expert, it's about winning fights, but the art is about safety.
Well, here's what I would say. Back in my day, a good old fist fight in a gravel parking lot settled a lot of differences. And then you shook hands and you went on about, the principal would come out and he'd say, who won? Did you get it out of your system? And now you can't do that. Now everybody gets arrested. So there's no need to do that. I don't have to prove myself to anyone. And as far as, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, and go on. Wow. I learned that from a dear friend of mine named Bill Wallace. He's Superfoot. He was the world kickboxing champion, and he's nice to everyone. And people come up and confront him because he was the world champion. He says, you're right. You're right. Let's let it go at that.
Wow. Sometimes you have to allow people to win, the confrontation, so that you can actually win the battle or the war.
Exactly.
The moment that they feel that they've won, okay, not a problem. Let's move on to something bigger and greater. So definitely, like you said, there is safety in numbers. What is something else that you would like to leave with the youth of today about, whatever it is that we're experiencing in this world?
Well, like I said, plant a good seed. If you're 10 years old, you can teach your younger sibling. I have a 7-year-old great granddaughter and a 2-year-old. Well, the 7-year-old can teach the 2-year-old. You have to be nice. Kids learn by seeing someone else do it, whether that be, my grandson was a wrestler. He taught his younger brother to be a wrestler. You always want to emulate an older sibling or I grew up learning from my uncles. My uncle was milking a cow one day, and I wasn't very old, and I thought I'd sneak up behind him. Next thing I knew, I had milk in my face. He says, "Come over here and get a bucket, and let me show you how to do that." Well, I learned to milk a cow that day. People think that's silly, but we're talking Southern Indiana in the 1960s. So
life principles. It is interesting that you say that, because as we look at life, this is what we have to do. The Bible teaches us to imitate those who through faith and patience, right? So that's the exact same principle that we're pulling out here. You know what? If I learned this and I'm older than you, let me teach you. And oh, by the way, a younger person can teach an older person as well. The key is just willing to be a lifelong learner. Learn from any and everyone and any and everything. We learn how to do what's right so that we can sleep at night. If we do what's wrong, we will toss and turn all night long, right? So that is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. What are some things that you would like to share with the listening and viewing audience at this time when we're talking about children safety? Things that let me put it to you this way, Greg. What are some things that they need to know that they might not know?
Wow, that's a good one. Like I said, you need to just understand that the world is different with the COVID-19. You can't go certain places, and we don't need to go certain places. If someone says, "Hey, come on with me," and you just have a feeling in your heart, in your mind, well, that's not a place I need to be, just politely tell them, no, I don't need to do that. We're talking about the older kids now, and I've dealt with that with my own grandchildren. So, everybody wants to go somewhere and be with a crowd, but you got to decide which crowd you want to hang out with. And there it goes, back to planting the good seed to start with. Teaching them right and wrong.
Follow your heart and your instinct.
That's very good. That's good, man. Yeah,
very good.
That's very good, because you see, if people followed that more, less bad things would happen. And see, that's not taught. Dr. V, you hear me? That's not taught. I mean, just hey, that feeling you have on the inside, if you don't feel right, don't go. And Greg, would you mind sharing the story of the tragedy that happened in your family and how it's inspired you to have a day where you celebrate your granddaughter?
My granddaughter would have graduated from high school this year. She would have been 18. When she was 15, she was a passenger in a car coming home from the movies. We don't know exactly where they were, but she was hit by a drunk driver, and she died instantly. We hope she died instantly. So, and it was a little town that she lived in. It's a mess. It's still a mess, but a drunk driver driving on the wrong side of a 4-lane highway. It's not like she was they were just coming home that night. And and 3 days earlier, I had picked her up from school and we talked about getting her a guitar for Christmas. And this was like 8 days before Christmas that happened. So you gotta learn to love your kids and give them a hug and tell them you love them before they walk out the door. So, because you never know.
Absolutely. And this one experience has caused you to expand and create different initiatives that will help parents, that will help families understand how important it is to embrace your children, love your children, and share with them the things that will become boundaries and hurdles in their life. And I love the way that you do this. The world is a better place when we are more educated as to what's in the world. And when we
Mhm.
talk to our youth, we have to make sure that we follow up with some of the tough things. That one thing that you said, if it doesn't feel right, if you don't have a
Yeah.
gut feeling about it, don't do it. Why? Because that's an intuition. Something said. No, we know that God told you, and that ain't the right move to make, at
Yeah.
that particular point in time. But sharing this story and helping people to understand how important it is. We say children's safety, but honestly, it's safety and civility for all. It helps
For
us
all. Exactly.
open up our eyes and to see what's ahead and what God wants for us ahead. This is definitely awesome. I appreciate Greg, you just sharing your heart with us. And
Beautiful.
when we talk about, everything that you're doing, think about this. What if you had that very same thing that you created for others when you were growing up in the 60s? Where
Oh,
would you be today?
well, first of all, we didn't have these computers and cell phones and all that. I've got a buddy helping me on here right now because I don't want to push the wrong button. I
Absolutely.
grew up in a pencil and paper era, riding a bicycle. You didn't have the technology you have today. Yeah, that's why my grandkids do this thing for me. So.
Listen, this is what I call the master delegator. He understands what it means. Say, hey, you do this, you take care of that. I don't understand that technology stuff. Just put me on. I'm good to go. Right. But that's
exactly
what we're talking about today. We're talking about children's safety and civility, and in showing you how you can make it a family affair. How you may not need to know everything, but you have people around you who know
really
their
good.
part. And when everyone does their part, the whole actually gets better and moves further. Greg, I'd like for you to just share a little bit about Have a Blast with Granddad.
Well, it started with my oldest granddaughter. She's 14. It started with her and I several years ago. Just let's do something with my martial arts. Let's and we talked about legacy. When I was coming up to the martial arts, what's your legacy? What's your legacy? Well, mine's. I said I've taught women self-defense and awareness, and I always use that word awareness, not just self-defense. Teach awareness. I taught that to women for years, and my daughter and I had a program many years ago, and now she's got kids of her own, and now with the technology, we can take it all over the world.
Beautiful.
So, and we decided to call it "Let's Have a Blast with Granddad." Let's have a blast.
I love it.
That is phenomenal. I love it. I love it. I'm talking about a movement that is going around the world. You're going to hear so much more from our good friend Greg Dillon in the coming future. Children, safety, and civility. But the truth is, it's safety and civility for all. If you've listened, if you've been picking up what Greg has been putting down, he's talked about women, self-defense, and awareness. He's talked about playground safety, car safety, industrial fire, and the list goes on and on. What we want to teach you in this moment is this. Find the one thing, and then maximize that one thing. That one thing can be spiderwebbed into hundreds of things, but there's one base principle. So I want to say thank you, Greg. I appreciate you. There's always a nugget that actually comes when you open your mouth, man. And I'm one of those guys. I'm a sponge. I like to listen and I like to learn. So this has definitely been good for me. Sir Clyde Rivers.
Greg, thank you for the common sense. We at times we make everything so difficult that intuition, that safety in numbers, those are common sense things. And I appreciate the fact that like you're making common sense common again.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. And people, Greg will be working in our network of civility. If you need him anywhere in the world, contact us at Civility 360, and we will put you in contact with Greg Dillon. Greg, thank you so much for spending this wonderful time with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Blessings to Greg Dillon. And again, that email that you can send inquiries to is civility360@gmail. If you want to learn more about Greg Dillon, if you want to learn more about children's safety and civility, make that the subject line when you actually send in your email, and we'll be sure to connect you with Greg Dillon. Blessings to you, my friend. You know what we say, civility everywhere at all times in any place on the planet. That's what Civility 360 is all about. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is always going to be a blast. Remember, you can also pick this up on the Bashani app, and that is worldwide on all streaming platforms. Blessings and peace to you all.